Hey guys, and welcome to another Factorio Friday Facts discussion. And I just want to make a quick note, if the acoustics and my audio sound a little bit different, I'm actually not home at the moment, so I'm recording in a different environment, and that's why things should be back to normal after this weekend. So anyway, today they pretty much discuss blueprint changes, quality of life stuff, which is all really, really nice actually. So they start out here by saying, we're aware that we don't add so much content to Factorio these days. The reason we always state is that we are focusing on polishing and finishing the game. There are a lot of little things in detail, some call it quality of life, that don't look that awesome when reviewed one by one. Once they accumulate together, they should make a big difference in the game experience. And this is Kovrex writing this. I'm going to talk about some of them now, but don't be afraid that we don't add anything new in 16, as the work on the artillery train has already started and is probably going to be epic. So first thing is artillery train. It is underway, which is fantastic. I can't wait to see what they do with that. They haven't really given much info on how it's actually going to work or their plans for it, but I trust that it's going to be really awesome. And of course, they'll probably discuss it more in further Friday Facts. And then, yeah, the quality of life stuff, it's kind of like in 0.15, they added all these small little quality of life things, like the clicking and dragging to put modules in, or the same thing for copy pasting stuff and things like that. Or where you can copy a train station to a train and it copies the color of the station to the train, or just coloring stations in general. Stuff like that is really nice, and that's kind of what they're talking about here with blueprints. So blueprint connection. One of the problems with blueprints and Ghosts was when you create blueprints of this. And I'm sure most of you noticed that when you do any blueprints with belts or walls aren't too bad in this regard, but especially pipes and belts, you get this, right? Entities don't connect in the blueprint itself, so it looks ugly like this. And a little bit confusing, right? Because all the pipes are pointing up, even though they're actually supposed to go left to right. Like I said, the walls aren't too bad. And then the belts, instead of the actual curve, they're just straight into straight. Which, if you know how this works and that it does this, then it makes sense. But this can be kind of deceiving and obviously doesn't look great either. So they've tried to figure out a way to fix this. So once you build a blueprint, it looks like this until it is actually constructed. So even the Ghost kind of looks like that. He said, this bugged me, but the solution wasn't so straightforward. The logic of connecting entities is based on them being actually placed somewhere on the map. In the blueprint, the entities kind of exist in the air. So I had to make special piece of code for connecting entities in blueprints. I only cared about the visuals of belts, walls, and pipes, so the code wasn't that complex after all. And this is what it looks like in 16. So this looks way better, right? It actually looks like what it's supposed to look like when you blueprint it, and when it's actually built, that's what it's supposed to look like. So definitely a huge improvement here. I'm really happy about this. As someone who's played a lot, it bothers me, but it's not deceiving or anything, because I know how it works. But again, for a newer player and stuff, I can imagine this would be kind of confusing. So this should just help in all regards across all player levels and stuff. I think is really, really great. So then the next step was to make special code to connect Ghost entities together, and also normal versus Ghost. This was the most tricky part, as we needed to make sure to not connect the internal transport lines of the belts when doing so. Otherwise, the Ghost belts would just work as normal belts, which I'm glad they caught that. That would have been a pretty huge exploit, I'd imagine. Kind of like initially when 15 came out, where productivity modules could be used in the Kovrex process, and then on top of that, the Kovrex process gave the full 40 back or something. If you remember when 15 first came out, there was a pretty huge thing with that. So we also needed to avoid Ghosts of connected gates not interfere with opening and closing logic of existing gates, but it works now, and this is the result of the build blueprint now. So this part kind of looks broken again, but I think it's just an example of what was talked about above. You can see pipes still not connecting. They are more delicate, as it would be harder to make the connections without affecting the performance of the pipe transition logic. We might either just not do it for pipes, use some special trick later, or wait until the fluid flow gets optimized. Optimization would probably mean that the fluid control logic would be handled externally like belts, which might simplify things regarding the fake connections. So this is actually a pretty big thing to me, that they mention the fluid flow optimizations, because he doesn't even say, right? He doesn't say if someone gets around to it. He actually, and I could just be pulling something from this that doesn't exist, but the way I read it is he says, or wait until the fluid flow gets optimized, as in saying it is planned to get optimized, just not yet, which is really good because fluid flow mechanics are wonky. They're bad for game performance. That's why these nuclear setups and huge steam setups aren't very good. Well, one of the reasons. Sorry, there's other reasons. But yeah, so that's really good news, I think. And then even talking about how the optimizations would work means that they're definitely kind of thinking about it and stuff, which is really, really good news. So that's kind of an exciting like tidbit that wasn't maybe intended in the Friday Facts to be like something to focus on, but for me it is, because that's a pretty big thing, I think. So then blueprints and mods. So essentially, to summarize here, if you blueprint something with mods in it, and then disable or uninstall the mods and load back in, the blueprint like breaks or it loses the mod items. He says basically with modded content would lose all their modded content whenever you load a game with the related mod deactivated. There's no going back. Once you activate the mod again, the items are lost. So it kind of just permanently kills the blueprint that has any modded items in it. So a solution to this was one of the first tasks to Tom, one of our new programmers. Now when the blueprint is being loaded and it encounters entities that are no longer available, the original binary source of blueprint, some additional metadata is saved. So essentially, now once the blueprint is activated, or once the mod's activated again, the blueprint will load back in with the modded stuff, which is fantastic. That should help a lot of people for sure. And then how it looks in the blueprint library when the mod is removed, kind of just like a question mark. Preview of the blueprint that indicates where are the entities that are not available. So question marks again, but the important thing is that it doesn't permanently delete those items out of the blueprint, which is really nice. So that pretty much concludes the Friday Facts. It was fairly short, a lot of pictures and great stuff. These blueprint quality of life things are fantastic. One other mention is that it was highly requested. I think like it was a hugely upvoted Reddit post by Exedith that about having blueprints being able to like contain train station names, like maintain the same name. And our seating replied to that, and this was a week or two ago, and said that he like just did it like then in like 5 minutes. So that's not mentioned in these, but I do think that that's coming as well. Just kind of a side note that being able to have blueprints copy over station names as well, I believe is coming in, which is another awesome quality of life thing for blueprints. But yeah, so there you go. Fluid mechanics, talked about it a little bit, which is pretty exciting, I think. These blueprint quality of life improvements, also pretty huge. And artillery cannon mentioned that they're underway. I can't wait to hear more about that. It should be really interesting what they do with it, kind of like limitations or what they allow you to do with it, how it will work. Super exciting. So anyway, guys, that concludes this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave any thoughts you have down below. I do read them as always, and I love to see the discussion. And yeah, Friday Facts linked down below in the description. But until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.